Okay. We can, oh, there he is.
And guys, before we start, just a little tip: if you're having a hard time, if your connection is not so good or anything, like now we have lots of videos, lots of things going on in the same lecture, so just turn your video off. That's totally fine.
And if you forget, I'll do it, and I will disappear after I introduce. Okay, so I think we're all here. If somebody is late, I'll just let them in. Oops, if Brendan can close. There we go. All right, so we're live. Here we go. First day of chamber music in the band. I think everybody survived. At least they appear to be. It was really great to hear, at least my students. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of you in the next couple days. This is pretty amazing and very courageous for all of you to want to do this. I'm very happy that we're all in this together. For those of you who are joining us from YouTube Live, we did open it to public. So if you joined us, hi, my name is Erin Kim. We have Daniel Stein here. We're doing this 5-day intensive, chamber music intensive, believe it or not, online with 16 students from 6 different states. We're based in South Bend, but it's pretty inspiring and amazing that we're all here. Yeah, we have 5 days of lectures that we'll be sharing with you. It's going to be all made public, so feel free to spread the word. And today we have Daniel Stein. He is in charge of music production and sound technology at University of, I almost, I almost
Notre
said
Dame, Notre
University of
Dame.
South Bend. University of Notre Dame. He's someone who knows a lot about technology, just like starting from the technology, basics of technology of sound to like the artistic shape of a sound. I remember talking to Daniel once about like how a sound wave looks and how beautiful it is to just visualize it. And it was pretty amazing to just hear him talk about that. So we're really lucky to have him here showing us all about these kind of information on what probably everybody is struggling and wondering about now, especially because we're all quarantined and trying to make the best out of the equipments that we have at home. So I will let it to Daniel. But before I go, just to people who are on YouTube Live, if you are a supporter of the arts, if you support the music, and if you like to contribute to us and would like to support our students, please consider donating. We kept the price, the tuition very low for the students, and we would really love to keep it that way. So anything that you can, help us out, it will go towards developing and continuing festivals like this in a strange time like this we are now. So hope you enjoy it. I'll close my, if I can figure out, all day I did this and now I can't find stop video. Oh, there. I'll stop video and I'll just give it to you, Daniel. All yours.
Thank you, and thank you, Iriam and Brandon, for putting this together. Um, Let me change to gallery view. No, speaker view makes more sense. And well, it's a pleasure to have all you guys here. I do work at the University of Notre Dame, as Iriam mentioned it. Funny thing is that, yes, I'm a specialist in this over there, but the real specialists in technology are actually our students because they are the ones that grew up with a cell phone. I did not. I actually remember a time before cell phones. I remember a time when I had to call somebody and say, hey, we're going to meet at that corner. And so we had maps and stuff like this. So you guys are native to this technology, and you guys can. We're here to see what we can do better with this technology, and how what you have in your hands, both computers and in terms of computers and in terms of cell phones, is sometimes much more powerful than what we had growing up. So there's a lot to be done. It's going to be a lot of fun. And let me go to my slides. I assume everybody can see this. In Ethereum will stop me if you can't. So recording tips, making the most out of our equipment or of your equipment at home. So I'm going to start with a little. Oops. a little real estate joke to introduce ourselves. This location, location, location. So this cartoon says this home has a wonderful view. If you go outside at night, you can look up and see the whole universe. Um, this, I think, well, first it's funny because it does reflect real estate agents and their will to kind of sell the house no matter what. But I think the lesson for us here is to, no matter where you are, yes, I know you're not in a theater or you're not where you want to be. Independent of that, you are make the most out of your space. And I think that's something that is a very, very important lesson for this little cartoon. And the typical location, location, location. And we're going to talk, before we even talk about technology, we're going to talk about the three locations here that I want to share with you. And the first one is, as I just said, making the most out of your space, independent of where we are. We're going to find what works best for ourselves and our audiences as well, because your audiences, your audience is behind your camera. So, location number one, let's talk about sound and find the best space for sound. So there is this joke that everybody sounds better in the shower. And is it true or is it false? Funny thing, if you Google it, there are articles on science explains why you sound better in the shower, and it's pretty interesting to read about it. And but so it's true in the sense that there is the impression that you actually do sound better in the shower. It's false that you actually don't. You think you do, but you don't. And why do we think this is true? Let me go to the next slide. Oops. Let me stay on this slide. Uh, why do we think this is true? There are a couple things that happen in most bathrooms. First, it's a small space. Second, there is a lot of reverberation because everything is very close together and it amplifies, it makes your voice bigger, larger than life. And that's one of the reasons you think you sound better in the shower. And and the third reason you think you sound better in the shower is noise, unfortunately. So showers are very loud. So they're masking a lot of the bad characteristics of what you're singing or doing. So it's funny that two audio qualities that are not necessarily something that you want. I mean, it's not that you don't want reverberation, but you want it at a level that is appropriate to what you're playing or performing. And and noise give you the impression that you sound better. So we need to be very careful when we choose our space in our house. And these are a few things that I want to keep in mind for this lecture. First, the first thing about location is the space quiet. So everybody that I met today was in a quiet space. Thank you guys. And you were in bedrooms. You were most of you had doors and it was locked, and that's something that is very important to keep in mind. So as I said, you don't want to be in the shower. You also probably don't want to be in the kitchen for not only because of reverberation, but because kitchen has a freezer and the freezer makes noise. Um, the second thing that I want to say is, can you isolate the space? We've all heard of all kinds of jokes of pets walking to your background. Um, you really want, like, your space is something that you're sharing with your audience, so it's nice to keep you neutral so that people can concentrate on actually on you, because anything in the background can send a message, and it might be a message that you want, it might be a message that you actually don't want. And I had three examples from this past couple months that I wanted to share with you. One, those are three people that I watch often and that I like very much. One is Trevor Noah from the Daily Show, that he's doing this daily social distancing show from home. And he likes to make a point that he's from South Africa and that he's a soccer fan. And he has, like, right here behind him, he has this copy of a trophy from from the World Cup in South Africa. And he's like really, it's subliminal, but he's like sending a message that does speak to part of his audience. Another person that I want to share that has a very different message, and he often comments on it, is John Oliver, who has a show on HBO. He keeps talking about this void that he lives in, and he has like an absolute gray background, and he wants it to reflect this state of limbo, he calls it, that we are in. And he's kind of angry and stuff, but it's very interesting that his choice about space and isolating yourself. what it does. And then there is somebody like Samantha B that is now recording outside because she can't go into the studio either, and the studio, this is supposed to reflect like all these sounds and that you hear, and birds and all kinds of strange things that are not part of the show are supposed to reflect the chaos that we're living right now. So some of the things that you want to pay attention. And naturally, when you go to any space, how do you sound in this space, right? Do you sound good? Do you sound a little bit too that? Does it make a difference if you're closer to a wall or if you're farther away from a wall? Those are little things to think about. Let's go to location two, curb appeal, placing yourself. And let me make sure that I am sharing. Do let me know if for some reason you can't hear sound. Can everyone hear that?
I don't hear the
No, no
sound.
sound.
No sound?
No sound.
No sound. Okay. So that is my fault. Let me see. Let me do a share screen, and it's going to be this screen and share computer sound. Done. Let me go back. Okay, let me stop this for a moment. Uh, Stop share. And we're back. So a few things that I want to point about this cartoon. Placement. He is perfectly placed where there is light. We can actually see the light where I'm hovering my mouse. And second thing about placement, this guy, our singer, is right in the middle of the stage. So middle of the stage, oops, middle of the stage is where you want to be, and I think that's something that is very important to remember. Let me actually go back to my main camera for a moment. So you really want to be in the middle of the stage. And that's the middle of the camera. That's right where I am. You can see my face. You can see some of the background, but not too much. That's something to think about. Not only for your audience, but for your chamber music colleagues this week. You want to be able to show your playing, sometimes your fingerings, your bowings. Um, if you are in the center of the image, you are able to control the message better. And that's what this cartoon does too. He's able, because he has the light on you and he's on the spotlight, he's able to tell the singer exactly what to do when. And the singer follows it perfectly and the orchestra follows it perfectly. So I think it's a very interesting, very simple but very interesting lesson. So good light is essential. And there are a couple ways of, we talked about it in while some of you were waiting for others to join, we talked a little bit about light. You can use natural light. So when we do our recordings this week, we're going to think about this. Or you can use artificial light. You can use fixtures. In this particular room that I am in, it's very, very dark. So I actually changed all the lights. I went to Amazon and I spent $8. And all of them are the same color. They're very bright. And this really helps me be able to communicate with you. Do you need this? Absolutely not. If you find a window, you all of us took selfies. So what you do, just place the camera and see where the light is. Is it better here? Is it better over here? And you will find that sweet spot. And as I said before, be mindful of your background. You don't want, cat, anything that distracts from your playing to be happening. Uh, Focus on your audience, as I said. Like, what would you like to see if you were sitting over there, right? And how do you want to be seen? Remember your colleagues. Uh, Brandon, some of you have the videos. Brandon is I recorded some of my stuff on top of his videos, and it's really great to do it because even though he's not playing with anyone, he is still queuing, and it's very clear what I need to do. Um, be mindful of the media. So this is something that I want to share with you guys. When I was growing up, TVs were kind of square. We call this 4:3 aspect ratio. It's not particularly square, but kind of. Movies as we see today, they're very stretched. And that's why I want you guys to place your cameras sideways. Because eventually you're going to be a little square here, a little square here, a little square here, and you want to be in the same aspect ratio in this kind of stretch with this 16 by 9, so that everybody fits nicely and everybody kind of looks the same. So those are the lessons here for how you place yourself. And location three, your audience sees your camera. So the best seat of the house is in the center, and I really wanted to have this little picture here. This is French theater, and this is the court of Louis XIV, and this is exactly where the king would sit. The king would sit smack center, so he could see everybody very well, so he could hear everybody very well, and that's what we're going to look for when we're placing our camera, our devices. So place your camera phone and or other devices thinking where the best seat for the audience is. So, and what they want to see. For strings, that's face instrument. For pianists, like if you go to the theater or if you go see a pianist, the first question is, okay, we're going to see this pianist, this is the time, this is the place. And then what people do, people give you a screen and say, where do you want to sit? And most pianists that I know that go see pianists, they like to sit on the left of the stage, on the left of the house, not the stage, because they like to see the pianist's hands. So it's like little small things that make a huge difference. If you have, but and if you have the light, and if you're seeing everybody, it already makes for a much more interesting performance. Um, so what I wanted to point out is that all three things we discussed are equally important. There is no secondary. There is like really truly the best equipment in the world will not make up for a noisy space. That's it is what it is. It's going to capture noise, and unfortunately, it is what it is. So your instrument you're playing needs to be louder than any noise that there is in the space. Some of the best albums in history were recorded with really what we consider today really crappy technology, like stuff that is not good, but people used it in a very smart and interesting way and thought a lot about it and thought, well, I can't really get the result, but if I put the microphone a little bit farther away or a little bit closer, I can get away with it. So imagination, okay, and you really can do a lot, truly a lot, with your phone and computer today, and there is a lot of free stuff out there. You also don't even have to pay um, uh, for anything special. The barrier of entry is completely different. What I had to purchase to even get started, I wouldn't have to purchase at all today. So moving on, maximizing your use of devices. Very simple. Cell phone. You got a camera and you got a microphone. I put the microphone, I put the cell phone on its side on purpose because I want, remember, aspect ratio. And also, I do not want the microphone to be placed on a stand against any surface because it's, oh, let me go back here. I don't want you to be placing the microphone against any surface because then the microphone will be pointing down, will be pointing at something that it doesn't necessarily flatter you. Okay, you want to be able to have your microphone absolutely free to listen to you directly. So let me move on a little bit. So camera aspect ratio sideways. Think about how you would do a selfie. Very simple. You're in the center. Arm's length is really good for two things: easy of operation, and it's also likely the best place for your sound. 3 to 4 feet away is usually where in the recording studio we put a microphone. We want to make sure, and also a little bit too closer than that, it gets in your way. So you probably don't want to be closer than that. If you put it too far, if you go 6 feet, 9 feet, sure you can see your shoes, but is the sound going to be the same? Probably not. And also you have to go press, come back. It gets really complicated. And on the microphone side, um, as I just said, sideways position makes sure your microphone is not obstructed. You really don't want to do it. There are lots of videos online of people saying, "Oh, make the best out of your microphone and make sure that if you look at my picture that you're speaking like this into it or like this, but you're not speaking with the microphone turned to the other side." And that's what we're being mindful here. Again, 3-4 feet from you is probably the sweet spot for this kind of stuff. It's where you have the best what we call signal to noise ratio. So signal is you, is what you're delivering in terms of sound. Noise is your background, is everything that is going on from lights to freezer to air conditioning, and you want to be closer to the signal. However, you don't want it to be that close that you also hear peaking, which is when you hear that scratchy sound because you played louder than the microphone can take. So let me go back for a moment. Uh, Test. That's how we're gonna know we're in the right spot. So test, test, test. As long as you need to make yourself comfortable. Don't go crazy on it, but do take the time to record. Try recording 30 seconds, 16 bars, 32 bars. Uh, Listen to it and see how it sounds. Make sure you play loud spots and soft spots. And when you're listening to it, don't listen on the maximum. Also, don't listen on the lowest. Listen in sort of a middle thing and through headphones or earphones if you have, because that makes a huge difference in your perception. If you're hearing through the computer speakers or your iPad speakers, you have air until it comes through you, and you have noise and you have other things. This gives you direct feedback. So it's very important when you're testing that you listen to through headphones. Okay, so try loud, try soft. Don't go into the red zone because that's when it really flattens your sound and makes it scratchy and strange. Okay, as you're doing this, notice if it's different. Try again. When you're happy with it, be consistent. Just write it down. Or notice, do something as simple as, extend your hand all the way to the camera. Okay, that's the length. That's correct. Where is it? Is it about shoulder length? Is it right in my face? So if it's right in my eyes, I know that I have to put it at 5 feet 6. Uh, think about these things because if you do more than one take, you kind of want to be in the same spot. In a studio situation, we often just put an X where you're supposed to stand so you don't forget about this. And that's it. Like consistency is really important because if you do 1, 2, or 3 takes, and in the situation that we are, we probably want to do 2 or 3 takes and choose the best one. But often in a recording studio, if there is a passage that is particularly problematic, what we would do is that we will try to fix something from that passage. And when you do that, you want it to be absolutely consistent and not be fixing volumes and all kinds of stuff. So always the same distance from the microphone, from the camera, etc. Pacing. Um, this all seems very complex and very complicated, but once you put the camera there and you start recording, do a little bit of tests, it's not. It is tiring though, because it's completely different than what you're used to. Do I have a question here? Sorry, I got a chat. Okay. Uh, so pace yourself. Like when you record, take breaks. Don't try to record, 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 record. It's very complicated to do that. Study the parts ahead. So do play with your parts that you have your reference parts, uh, and record without stops. If you did a little mistake here and there, it doesn't matter. Just keep going. Maybe you'll fix it on next time. Make a mental note. Go back. Stop. See if it's a fingering. If it's a, you will see what kind of issue it is. Fix it, and then let's do the whole take again. Record again if necessary. If it's good, it's good. Trust it. Send it to us, and we'll be happy to put it together. And be an active listener at all times. Just be thinking about your colleagues, what you heard, how do you want to shape it, and all these things, because all of this will be very influential. And be patient with yourself. That's the last thing. That sometimes people are like, no, I want to get it perfect. No, just be patient. I have a question here. A question from Brandon Hooligan on YouTube. Hi, Dan. Thanks for this lecture. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Could you explain how you did the sound for Notre Dame organ recitals this past spring? I cheated. We did it in the organ hall, and the organ hall has absolutely excellent, very expensive, like $2,000 to $3,000 microphones. And I just called their tech and I said, "Hey, can I use your microphones?" And he's like, "Sure." He gave me a left and right channel, an LR, as we call, and I piped it directly into a computer. So I used the expertise of somebody else that has been working in that house for a long, long time. And of course, I did original sound, but the experience at home was very similar to the experience in the space because the microphones were placed kind of in the middle of the room, as the technician from the Bartlett Center does, which is he's been working there for a long time and he knows his house better than me. So that answers this question. Um, Recording is a learning experience, and it's something that I don't know how this is gonna last. It's good for all of us to know. So learn to enjoy the process, and remember it's only a reflection of where you are at the moment. So many artists record the second version, a third version of what they did after. Don't obsess over it. Just have fun with it. Um, and in here again, we're aiming at full takes. A good strategy is to record, listen, rest, absolutely rest, and do it again. And generally, choosing from the best of three takes is a good strategy. So, if you go do 15 takes, 20 takes, you're just going to get tired. That's probably not where you want. You probably want to go back. If it's not there yet, you probably want to go back, practice a little bit, or ask us to even adjust the tempo. Maybe we did record at a tempo that is not quite appropriate for it, and we redo it this way. Um, so now we get to technology. So there are a number of apps that record sound better than what your phone gives to you. So what your phone gives to you is just notes and very simple things, and it has less samples of audio. So sample is the amount when sound becomes from analog to digital. The only way to tell the computer what to do is that you put dot 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 dot. You put tens of thousands of dots so that you create a little curve. And if you have a dot here, and dot here, this can mean a lot of stuff to the computer. But if you have dot, 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 an almost infinite number of dots, it really changes um, what the computer experience is. So let me get off this screen a little bit so you guys can see me better for a second. Let me talk about these dots again. So if I have dot here, I can have so many paths to this dot. But if I have dot, 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 I have a perfect curve. So what a better quality app like iTalk does is that it lets you choose how big the file is. So if you have a bigger file, you have the possibility to have more dots and connect more dots, and that's more accurate. Uh, iTalk is free. Of course, they want to sell you their microphone, but anybody can use it. Anybody can use it with an iPhone. It's great. To manipulate audio, Audacity is a free digital audio workstation. It's a place where you put your audio and you can do all kinds of interesting things to it, from adding a little bit of reverberation if you're not happy with your space, to fixing little details and doing cuts. Um, for more technology, so we're also practicing, right? And sometimes somebody sends you a recording and you're like, I really want to be there. I love it. I am not sure I can play at this tempo right now. So this app is free on the on many of these stores, on the Apple Store, on the Google, and they have upgradable versions. But basically, what this does is you put your tune there and or your part that you're practicing, and you can slow it down without altering the pitch. So you can play it at half speed, three-quarter speed, and you can go little by little and move on with your recording. That's something that jazz players use all the time to learn music, and it's a very, very good strategy for practicing. I personally am biased with this app called Transcribe. It's only $39, and I transcribed in numerous CDs when I was LPs actually when I was learning specific recording performance practice of Argentine tango, klezmer, other genres that I play, and I really recommend having a look at it to see if it's something that you're interested in. Um, if you're interested in something beyond your phone, in these times of COVID, one thing that has been good for is that everybody has been putting their best knowledge forward. So Peabody, it's really great place to study music. Actually has a fantastic list of, hey, these are really good things that you can buy that will make your sound better. And it goes from like really cheap, simple solution all the way to a more elaborate rig, but still everything way cheaper than what it would have cost even 5 or 10 years ago. You can also, like, if you're taking this workshop, do write to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out choosing something that is appropriate. And lastly, there's a lot of information out there. Actually, I should have said there's a lot of free information out there. Just be curious. Like, if you're curious about how reverb works, type reverb. You're going to find somebody talking about it. If it's not good, move on. There's going to be somebody talking about it in a way that you like it. And there are some recording guides. So all the big microphone companies, Shure, DPA, Neumann, to name a few, they have really fabulous guides, and they talk about, hey, if you put it here as opposed to putting it a little bit there, it tells you what it does. And even if you don't have that microphone at that moment in time, you can try it with your cell phone and see if you can replicate the situation. And it's very interesting to look at some of these things. Some of these videos are 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Uh, Also, I talked about the digital workstation. So there are these things called plugins that they exist to manipulate music. A few of the companies are Waves, Isotope, Fab Filter. Fab Filter is used a lot in classical recording. Sometimes you are recording in a less than ideal space and you want to emulate a slightly different space, so you use Fab Filter to fix that a little bit. Uh, they have guides. They have lots of interesting information. And again, it's not about purchasing the software, but it's about what can I do with that information. And I think it's very special. I want to thank you guys one more time. I have a lot of references, so I will be very happy to send this slide to you guys to post online. Um, if you're interested in video, particularly, there is this woman that she calls herself Premier Gall. I actually have no idea what her name is, and she's on YouTube and she has a ton of free information. I learned a lot about how to edit video from her and this other guy called Photo Joseph. They just put information out there. They review products, and they're like, "You wanna start with nothing? This is free. Download that. You wanna do something really interesting? This is really expensive. Figure it out." Oops, this is my timer because I wanted to be on 32 minutes on this lecture and I wanted to open for questions. So it just turned on and I actually reached the end of my slides. So let me go back to this camera. Another thing that I have here oh, is another side camera that I created to show you guys some of these placements. So we can go through that. But right now, let me go back to my uh, Zoom here and go to the chat. Or if you guys are with us on Zoom, just feel free to unmute and ask questions. I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to say about it.
I have I have a question.
Go for it.
Do you have like a recommendation on an easy application to put together like multiple videos? Because we've been doing a lot of that for this festival, right? Um, and so it would be, I know iMovie has some of those, but I wonder if you have like a recommendation on that, like splicing or not splicing, like splitting like multiple videos into one frame.
So it depends on the platform that you are, and, especially for non-professional use. Like Apple is particularly good about making it simple. I've seen things on cell phones that are much simpler and much easier to use than some of the iMovies. Windows, I would have to think a little bit about it. And there are also apps. I'm trying to remember the one that people that do choirs are using a lot. Is Acapella. Acapella is an app that does that simply, and they were the first out there. I take issues with its copyright notice, and because they say that they own every video that you put out, and that's something that I have a problem with. But my suspicion is that there are lots of people working on similar technology that will come out and that will be just as good and without those, Dracolian copyright caches. But the interesting thing is that if you even Google a cappella, you will probably have some things that are already surfaced around. Um, iPad has, I can't name it top of my head, uh, an app, but I know there are some apps that are very, very friendly. And in your particular case, because you are associated with an institution, you can download for free Premiere, and there's a little bit of a curve to learn it, but it's not as much as you would think. I think you're going to be surprised at how much you can do with very little training, and I think it's worth putting, maybe half an hour or an hour into tutorial and using something very powerful.
Hmm. Awesome. Thanks.
So I have a question too, Daniel. Is there, regardless of the Android or iPhone or iPads, what would you recommend for our students for this festival to be using when after the intensive, when they're doing their recordings and trying to match up with us? What's a good resource for them to be using?
I'm actually going to recommend cell phone. It's been and that's why I focused on it. I think a cell phone sideways is going to give like a good listening environment and a good camera. Uh, Cell phones are, as opposed to computers. I mean, I'm talking on a computer, but I'm using a microphone and stuff. But the quality of cell phone microphone is much larger because cell phones became this thing that people record videos and all kinds of stuff on it. So it's naturally being built. The technology is better. Also, it has pretty fantastic cameras, and so I really recommend using your cell phone unless you have a much more elaborate rig and you want to do something very specific. But actually, I recorded my audio for my rough audio at least for you guys to practice on more of a cell phone like rig because it's what made more sense. And I think a cell phone well placed will sound fairly good. I think it's more about finding that spot than than the technology. Oof! I have a piano in the corner. Okay, I have some questions here. Tempo practice. Do you have recommendations on app to put together multiple videos? Yes, I replied to that. I will do some research on that, and we can like link it later. So I have a piano in a corner. What do you recommend I should place my cell phone when recording my piano that is located in the corner of a room? You don't have 3 or 4 feet away. Aha! There's going to be a little bit of experimentation of your situation. How about a little bit up? If you can find like maybe a 45-degree angle where you can see your face but also can see a little bit of your hands, I think that's an interesting place. I'm wondering what kind of there are all kinds of mounts that exist for cell phones. You probably don't want to mount it right on top of the piano because there is a lot of reverberation and it will catch that. But maybe you can put in a music stand and kind of have it like very very close to you but a little bit higher and kind of facing you, and that's what I would start as a starting point. And if that doesn't work, one thing that people really like about pianists is that camera that is exactly where Yuriam's camera is, that pretty much show your hands. And people tend to put it very low, like at the very end of the keyboard, and it kind of sounds great. It sounds great for a very interesting reason, actually. When the camera is closer to the wood, rather than just right on top of the piano, where we usually put microphones, um, the wood filters some of the harshness. So I actually have colleagues. You have actually a very nice right behind you. You seem to have a cell phone stand.
Yeah, I was just gonna show this to Ju because I got this off of Amazon. I use it when I teach. Like I have it here, and I use this to show my hands from the top.
Yeah,
because this has an angle thing. So I wonder if this could be a solution for pianists who have the piano in a odd angle, like corner rooms. This might
yeah.
come in handy because it's so light, you could just move it around.
So that's a good solution. And what I would do is that I would experience with the height a little bit and see where's that sweet spot that is not too harsh, um, but also works that you know there's nothing wrong with harshness, especially if you're playing a different. Depending on what you're playing, you want that. Like historically, jazz recordings are actually very in your face and pointing, so there's nothing wrong with it. But for a classical player, generally wants something more mellow, and I think depending on the height, you will find sort of a sweet spot sound wise that you like, and record 30 seconds, put your headphones and see how you feel about it. More questions.
Do we have any more questions? Let's see. Kayan just asked, would a Yeti microphone and computer camera be better than a phone?
Yes, that's an absolute yes. So when I talked a little bit about self noise, and so self noise of a piece of equipment means how much that equipment produces of noise. So every microphone, computer, any piece of equipment has noise. It doesn't matter if it's a fridge um, or a computer. So what happens with a computer? The computer, because it has drives and stuff like that, already has noise. So you tend to put kind of whatever is cheapest because you know you can't get an absolutely ideal recording out of it. So if you have a Yeti that is a dedicated unit for a microphone, you automatically immediately have better noise specs. The Yeti, if I remember correctly, has a stereo mode, has a cardioid mode, has different modes, and one is more like what's going on right here. The omnidirectional will catch the whole room. So it's really cool if you're in a church because you can put it close to you and you can hear mostly you, but you can hear all those beautiful reflections that are coming from the back. So that's where you use this omni because you want this omnipresent sound, and it has the stereo mode that is pretty much like doing like listening to the room and listening to like if you're recording like I think Yerim and Brendan use a lot the stereo mode for recording something that needs the piano and the violin. So the violin is a little bit here, piano is a little bit here, and this thing kind of catches everything that is directly in front of it. Uh, and Yeti, if I remember correctly, actually has some recording guides also. It talks a little bit about it. So it makes a difference if the microphone is addressing you from the top or from the side on how you place it.
I was
But
just gonna ask that for string players, is it better to be like pointing the strings or like pointing up,
so
or
it
is it
depends on the
depend?
specification of the microphone. If it's there are microphones that are top address, so that means the top is catching you, and there are microphones that are side address. So the side of the microphone is getting you. Let me find a microphone, which should be hard here. Give me one moment. This is a good example. So this is a typical uh, top address microphone because that's where it is, and you would put it at about 45-degree angle. A side address microphone would pick sound from the side. Uh, Having said that, one great trick is that sometimes you put the microphone exactly as it's supposed to be, and it sounds harsh. It's not exactly what you want. But if you put it far away where recommended, it picks up too much noise, and it's unhappy about that. So a trick that you can do is find a 45-degree angle or even a 90-degree angle in some direction where it captures you a little bit less, but also doesn't catch that much noise. So there are some tricks, and Neumann, the microphone company, has a quite beautiful video about it. Very interesting. That this guy is trying to record guitar and voice, but the guitar is here and the voice is right here, and he's trying to get one outside of the other using two microphones. And it's a video that I don't have either of these microphones, and it taught me a lot about how to think about microphone placement. So there is no right or wrong when it comes to microphone. It comes to what works. Does it make sense? Oh, more questions. If we could get rid of lag, is that a question? We can't. I'm really sorry. So a little bit about lag, if we have time. Now you guys are in control of time. You guys are gonna have to be because my timer went off, so that I knew that I could go to questions. So, uh, ideal lag. In an ideal world, sound travels. It's about 1 millisecond per foot. So even if you're playing piano and your violin is a little bit far away, it's kind of not ideal already, and we've experienced that. So that's only 8, 10 feet away. By the time you get 20 feet away, which is equivalent to 20 milliseconds, life is hard. And that's why when you see pop music, you see all this extra stuff turned to the musicians. It's like, aren't they hearing each other? They're on stage. That makes no sense. Actually, there is a reason for this. These are monitors. They are actually way too far away to be playing together. That's why you see the drummer with headphones and all kinds of uh, all kinds of added technology. And because once you go over 20 milliseconds, it gets really hard to play together. To give you an idea, um, Zoom aims to stay under 150 milliseconds. So that's more than enough for me to talk, listen to you, and respond. But as far as playing together, it's pretty much not a thing right now. There are a few technologies that are dealing with that. They're about 10 years old right now. One is called Jack Trip. It deals only with audio, and the other one's called Lola. It deals with audio and video. Those are very advanced. Those have come a long way in the last 10 years, but also those require fiber technology, and they require an internet connection uh, that has the same speed going up and going down. So, which is not what happens to most of us. Most of us prioritizing downloading, but when it has to upload, we've all experienced that. It's like, whoa, the movie just came, it's great, and then you try to upload a movie to somebody else, and it's like, why is this taking 10 times longer? Because that's not a symmetrical network. If you are in a research institution, however, and you can pipe 10 gigabits, then you can use Lola. But also, it's using high speed cameras. It's using all kinds of interesting technology that I would love to talk to you about, but it's probably not where this lecture is going.
Yeah, we have a minute left, and we have one more question from Jarek about how to reduce noise from air conditionings and fans, if we can sneak that one in.
Easiest way, know where you want to be, air conditioning wise. It's like, I like playing at 65 degrees. Bring it down to 60, turn it off. And then you have half an hour until it goes up. And a lot of studios do that. They're like, they know it's too noisy. So if your room is too noisy, absolutely do that. I have many friends that have home studios. That's exactly what they do. You get their home and it's like, it's freezing. I was like, yes. So that you can be comfortable for the next 3 hours. That's the easiest way. And do turn the fan off. That's going to make you miserable.
Okay, guys, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Daniel, for your expertise and for sharing it with us so freely and giving us all these resources. If you have any questions, you can always contact Daniel directly. But we hope that you've enjoyed this. And for all of you who've been watching on YouTube, ooh, look at that. Thank you. Oh, he's so prepared. What am I going to do for my lecture, Daniel? You kind of hit should have put Daniel last so that the bar was lower. This is irritating.
You can take the thank you. I'll give you this line.
Okay, yeah, give me the thank you. But yeah, if you enjoy this, if you're in the festival, contact Daniel. If you have any more questions, he is the best person to talk to about making sure you sound your best for this, and we want you to sound your best. So if there's nothing else to do, all of you on YouTube, thanks for watching. Please consider donating. You just go to shay-kimduo.com/donations, and you can help support us do all this cool stuff online. Otherwise, see everyone in the festival tomorrow in the afternoon. It's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everyone, for your amazing work today. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you guys for putting it together. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Guys.